Good, Lisa.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this pre-conference business meeting for the 62nd annual meeting of the Necessful. We're so glad that you took time out of your schedules to join us for this business portion so we can get some of these details out of the way so we can begin our professional sharing on Tuesday without having to worry about the business part. So as we progress through today, we do have an agenda that we're going to follow, which was shared in the annual meeting program. So if you want to see that detailed agenda, you can find that there. As we start moving through the presentation, we do want to remind you that our Necessful vision is that we serve individuals and organizations in the process of meeting the demands of this interdependent world that we live in and helping people become more interculturally competent. A few items of business as we move through. We are broadcasting in 6 different time zones today. So if you are one of our friends joining us from out west, we know that you are 3 hours earlier. And if you are lucky enough to be joining us from Hawaii, you're 5 hours earlier than what we are here on the East Coast, where we're broadcasting from. We do plan for this to be about an hour and a half. And then the materials from today and the recording will be posted on the members only section of our website. Probably in about a week or so, we'll make that available to you. So we're going to go ahead and get started right in with our agenda for today. And that's starting us off with our officers report and introductions. And as we move through the welcome, we do want to make sure that we acknowledge the hard work of all of the members of the executive board who have worked so hard throughout this past year to help make this upcoming conference possible and to make it the best possible conference we can given the circumstances that we're working in. I did mention that our agenda is available in the program. It's also linked on our annual meeting website. So if you take a look on there, you can find the program that has the detailed schedule in it. If you have not yet received your registration package that has the paper copies. I hope that everyone by now has received their registration package. They were mailed out and they were intended to be received by no later than November 10th, so that you would have them for today's meeting. So hopefully you did receive that in the mail as well. Our executive board for 2021 is getting ready to wrap up their duties with this conference that we have coming up and our final things that we will be sharing with you together. Please do join me in giving a big thank you to all the members of the executive board who have worked so hard to make this happen and to put this together. And then finally, I did just want to share with you from the perspective as president that it has been a very interesting 2 years. I think that we've had a lot of discussions about how we wish that we could have been in person and the changes that we had to make in order to accommodate this virtual scheduling. I hope that we've still been able to meet your needs as members of the Necessful and to be responsive enough to continue to serve despite not being able to gather together in person. So with that, to start sharing this work, I do want to go ahead and go right into the other officers' reports. And we're going to start off with Pam, who is going to share from the secretary's report some of the activities that have taken place over this past year. So Pam, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Kathy, if you would go to the next slide, please. So I'm Pam Delfoss, Interim Secretary on your Necessful Executive Board, and I wanted to provide everyone with a summary of our Secretary's report for this past year. There are 2 links on this slide for your future reference. The first will take you to the annual meeting minutes from our meeting last fall in November. which were approved in March of this past year. Thanks to all of you who reviewed and approved those minutes virtually. And I would like to just invite everyone to be watching for an invitation to review and approve or revise minutes from our upcoming annual meeting. I hope to have those sent out for review and approval by end of year, and we'll do that virtually again. And then the second link on the slide provides you access to just a high-level monthly summary of the executive board activities over this past year. There's a highlight of those activities on the slide. They include communications that center advocacy and equity. They include hosting professional learning and networking events, and supporting and guiding the important work of all of our internal committees. We've also engaged in making some improvements to both our public-facing and internal website, and have worked hard, as Lisa referenced, to collaborate in planning our annual meeting for next week within the organization, but also with our partners at NADSFL, with our sponsors, and even in communications with ACTFL. And then finally, just managing the business of the organization in identifying future leaders for our election and in managing memberships and money matters. So thank you for listening to my summary report of this past year, and just feel free to reach out to me anytime at my email address, secretary@nsesfl.org.
Right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate, Pam, you first of all jumping in to take over when Stephanie had left her agency. So Pam joined us as the interim secretary to take over the remainder of the year. And really, we didn't miss a beat, just came right into taking care of everything. So thank you so much for that hard work and for keeping us so well informed and for providing this update to the members.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to go ahead and move on, and I don't think Brandy is on yet. I don't see her, so we're going to go ahead. We will come back to the treasurer's report once Brandy is able to come in. So we're going to go ahead and move ahead to the report of the technology coordinator. So Kathy.
Hi, everybody, again. So just, this will, I guess, will be my final technology coordinator report, which is kind of sad. I was a little emotional today, but because I got to do it for 5 years because I had that little interim position. So I always like to share analytics for where we are as far as the website. That's a part of what I do when during our meetings. So as you look on this, you can see last year or through 2020 and then through 2021, just through October 30th. So you can see the number of site visits jumped by about 9,000. Unfortunately, I think part of that is bots, as Lisa might attain. People sort, sometimes we get some of those bots trying to troll the site, but we have gotten, it has improved. Unique users means people who so no one who has access the site more than once, so that you can see the data there from 15 to 23. Page views went up to 49,000 from 32. Average time that people spend on the site really didn't change that much, and the average pages per visit hasn't changed. Normally, I think, as people end up on the home page and then they click into the second page after that. So just a little comparison of the analytics from the past 2 years. I always like to look and show the board the top 25 pages. So in 2020, the top 25 pages, the pages with the can-do statements were 23% of all hits on the website. The Linguafolio training modules were 11%, and then the state reports were 6% of the hits that we had during 2020. During 2021, changed a little bit. The Linguafolio training modules were actually 37% of the hits. The can-do pages went to 12%, so a little bit of a switch there. And then kudos to our Lingua Grow committee. You came in third place at 3% of the hits on the website. So good job on that. I always think it's interesting to see who's visiting our website. So in 2020, the US was 72% of the visitors, and then you can see the other countries behind that. In 2021, the Philippines jumped to first place. So I'm guessing that might be a little bit of the responsibility for some of those a little bit of bots that we got coming in, but for the most part, it's always interesting, I think, to see who is visiting our website. Profile pictures, I make this plea every year and we're actually pretty good. So if you go to the nacessful.org map and click on your state, you'll get a pop-up box. If I have your picture, it's in there. We're down to 15 phantoms. So that's actually pretty good. Out of the 100 some members that we have, to only have 15 phantoms left, that's really good. Or if you look at your picture and you're like, oh, this is a picture from like 5 years ago, I have a much better profile picture I'd like to add, feel free to do that. Just send me a headshot, technology@nacessful.org. Usually if you send me a headshot, minimum without me having to crop it is 150 by 200. So make sure it's at least that big, but if there's cropping, it would have to be a little bit bigger, and then I could get that uploaded for you. I wanted to give some teasers on the annual meeting. So we have some fun stuff going on. Again, we took the survey that you filled out last year. We actually do read, and we spend a lot of time actually going over the survey. So I took a lot of good suggestions from last year. First off, the link, if you already received your packet, it's on the bottom of every page of the program. It's a tinyurl.com, meet me at Nacessful 2021. So that's the link for the website. We also, based on suggestions last year with the virtual meeting of, a lot of people said it was hard to just sit with no activities. So when you go into each day's activities, you'll see videos in there. Those are not ads. Those are actually videos for different movement activities. There's some games, there's some music, there's some dances if you want to learn to dance. So in between, whenever we have those 5 or 10 minute breaks or the lunches, I embedded some videos in there for you to be able to move a little bit. We have a photo booth again, just like last year. Feel free to start sending me photos now. If you go into the website, you'll see the photo booth is empty. Send me photos. You can send them before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting, and I'll post them. I can post them really easily. And then also another suggestion we had from several people was that it was hard to fill out the survey at the end of 3 days because you forgot everything. So actually I made a survey for each day, and the survey is already posted in the website. So you're welcome to fill it out at the end of each day. You can fill it out in real time and then just submit it at the end. So some really good suggestions from last year's meeting that we were able to implement this year. Okay, that's all I have, Lisa.
Awesome. Kathy, thank you so much. And again, please do join me in thanking Kathy for all the hard work she has put in for over 4 years as our technology coordinator, really bringing us into this technology world so successfully and making everything so easy for us. And if you've not yet looked at the annual meeting website, pull it up and see what a fantastic job she has done. The website is just beautiful with lots of information, very easy to navigate, very easy to get to everything with links to all of the events taking place. So Kathy, once again, thank you so much for that. I see that Brandy is with us. So Kathy, if you could go ahead and jump back to the treasurer's report, we are going to go ahead and move on with that piece. Okay, and Brandy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say. You can see our report there that at the beginning of 2020, we had just a little over $95,000. And I think the next screen has it a little bit bigger. And you can see that without you can see that without travel, we haven't had a lot of extra expenses. So we stayed pretty steady. We also lowered the cost that we were charging members to attend the conference. So that just meant just a little bit less revenue, but then we had a little bit increase because we were sending out those wonderful packages with gifts so that we could, live vicariously in our home offices and network virtually. So we're going to vote on dues for next year. And so I just wanted to remind you of voting eligibility. Regular members, state education agency members, retired, and lifetime 8 members are permitted to vote. If you're an associate member, a retired associate member, or lifetime associate, you are not permitted to vote. Next slide, please. Thanks. So are you in favor of approving the treasurer's report as presented? And I think we can just, I think you're muted, Lisa, sorry. Do you want them just to type yes in chat? Or do you want them to unmute and say yes?
So we have a poll question for that, but we are going to need a motion first. So we can
Okay.
use the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself to just make a motion. We need a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
This is Ryan. I'll move to approve the treasurer's report.
This is
Thank you,
Greg.
Ryan.
I second it.
Thank you, Greg. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just a huge thank you to Brandy for her work as treasurer. Having done that for many years in the past, it's a lot of work.
I have a lot of assistance from our fearless leader, Lisa. She's super patient with me.
But you do a great job. So the poll is open. If you will, please, if you are eligible, go ahead and cast your vote to approve or not approve the treasurer's report as presented. Just about 10 seconds to make sure everybody was able to find the report. If you are not able to see the poll because of the device that you're on and you want to cast a vote in the chat box, you may do that also.
Lisa, if we're ineligible to vote, do you want us to select abstain or just do nothing?
Either one.
Okay.
Okay, about 5 seconds. All right, we are going to go ahead and end the poll, and the motion has passed unanimously to approve the treasurer's report as presented. So thank you very much, Brandy. Again, and I echo what Ryan said. Thank you for your work as treasurer. It is such an important contribution to the organization to maintain our fiscal responsibilities. And it's a very time-consuming task to do that. So we do thank you for your past 2 years as service of as treasurer. Okay, we're going to move right on. And Patrick, I believe you are up next.
All right. Thank you very much, Lisa. It's good to connect with everyone here. Although it's virtual, I feel like I have missed so many of you, and I know I'm not alone in feeling those feelings. So it's good to be together. My report today is really just sort of summarizing all of the members who are making presentations at the upcoming Necessful ACTFL convention. And so I wanted to share with you some of those. Now, we did send out a request via the listserv, and so we collected a lot. We believe this is a comprehensive list, but if we've missed someone, I apologize in advance, and please let us know so we can get that all up on our board. I am going to put something in the chat, which is a link to the complete list, which is on the conference website that Kathy has done such a great job with. But just rolling down real quickly, on Friday, you see we have 4 presentations from various members involved in them. And of course, I want you to look at this and also that link that I put in the chat and sort of make a note of those, because we definitely want to support our fellow Necessful members as they do their presentations. And you can read them here. I don't think I have to go through them necessarily, but again, that link that's in the chat box will give you that as well. I just want to give you a time to look at it. If you'll advance to the next slide, we'll see for Saturday. And then there's only 2 there. And as you may be also aware, on Sunday, there's another additional 2, but then there's also a list of sort of on-demand sessions, and that was quite a long list. There are good descriptions of these, or succinct descriptions of these presentations as well on the website. So I would encourage you to go there as well. So just a really good turnout, I think, on behalf of our membership in terms of involvement in the upcoming ACTFL conference. So extremely happy and proud of that. And that's my report, Lisa.
Thanks so much, Patrick. And we are looking forward as you wrap up these duties as president-elect to moving forward as president and starting to hear more about that when you move into that role. So coming into the rest of our officers' reports, we do want to hear from our past president, Ophelia, who has done such a great job of putting together additional professional learning opportunities beyond the annual meeting over these last 2 years. So Ophelia, if you're on, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa, and good afternoon or good morning to all of you. So this year, most of our Necesso cafes were driven by the priorities that our members identified during our last year's annual meeting survey. I think Kathy may reference how valuable your input is to us every year through that survey. And you identify 3 areas of specific interest. And one was board certification for world language educators, equity, and connecting with our organizational partners. And we thank our many members who facilitated these robust conversations throughout the year: Veronica and Marie, Lynn, Michelle, and Stacy, and Tom Welch. And we were also privileged to host Amanda Sewell and John Bernstein from JNCL, who gave us a very informative legislative update. And then Rhonda from Beloved Community, who joined us to discuss sustainable pathways to equitable schools. So thank you. If you missed on attending one of these cafes or would like to go back and review the content of those cafes, you can always do that by going to the members only space and clicking on Necesso Cafes. And there you will find the recordings and our chat notes for each of those events. And so we encourage you to take advantage of those resources.
All right. Well, Ophelia, thank you so much for sharing that information. And I hope you all will join me also in thanking Ophelia, not just for this past president's report and for the professional learning that took place this year, but for a great 6 years of service on the board during her track on the presidential track. So Ophelia, thank you so much for all you've done for the organization. And we look forward to what's coming up when we transition to the new board. Okay, so our final officer report for today, but by no means the least, is from our vice president, who has some extremely important information to share about how we help make this annual meeting happen with the support of our sponsors. So Kathleen, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. It's so good to see everybody today, and I'm so looking forward to our conference next week. I wanted to share with you about our sponsors. We have 12 sponsors that have supported us with a little over $16,000 in total sponsorships for both Necesso and NADSville conferences. So we share that money with NADSville. They've also provided some of the things that you received in the wonderful box that Lisa sent out. And we will be having more prizes and more things happening at our president's reception on Tuesday evening that's sponsored by Avant. We've been working really hard to create a fun experience and a president's reception for everyone. Then on Wednesday, we have our soy event, and when we will recognize the new soy for this year, and that's sponsored by Carnegie Learning. They've done that for the past several years, and we are really thankful that they've agreed to continue this year to sponsor this. So if you'll go to the next slide, Kathy. Thank you. So this is information about a little bit about our president's reception. It'll be from 6 to 7 on Tuesday the 16th, and it will be a Jeopardy game that will be have elimination rounds, and you have to be there because Tom Welch is going to be our MC for the final round. We're very excited about that. And then on Wednesday, we will have a social evening, a social event from 6 to 7. And this is an opportunity for us to join and meet up with our current and former Necessful friends. And so bring your favorite beverage and come and join us. I also would like to ask everyone to please join us during those sponsor moments. We will have live addresses, a live promotion from our sponsors. They'd love to see your faces. It will make a big difference in their lives and in our continued receiving of sponsorship monies from them. This is how we fund our conferences every year. And without them, it would just be impossible for us to be able to put on a conference. So thank you very much for your time and for being available to our sponsors and hearing what they have to say. Thank you, Lisa.
Kathleen, thank you so much. We truly do appreciate the dedication that you have had in working to help make sure that we've retained our sponsors throughout this challenging period. It has been a challenging time for them as well. And so Kathleen and her counterpart through NASFL really worked hard to communicate with our sponsors to make sure that they know that we do still need their assistance and that we do still appreciate their support and encouraging them to remain with us during these virtual times. So thank you, Kathleen. We truly appreciate that. Before we go into the committee reports themselves, I do just want to take a moment to remind you that we are always looking for new members and new ideas for the standing and the ad hoc committees. Always trying to make sure that we have as much and as broad a representation as possible from all of our memberships, both new members, mid-career members, retired members, those on geographically diverse areas. So if you have an interest in any one of these areas, please do reach out either with your idea or your volunteering to serve on one of the committees, as we truly could not do this without the many volunteer hours on the part of our members that are making these things happen. So with that, we are going to go right into our committee reports. And I believe that we do start out with our bylaws committee. And so Ryan, I am going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And thank you to all of the members of the bylaws committee. We have been busy this year. We do have an amendment to update our bylaws that we're just about ready to share with all of you. I hope that we would have it done by today. But you know what? I've got a committee full of retired members and we're kind of at the mercy of their leisurely schedule. So hopefully we'll have that language ready to go. Essentially what we're doing is we're going to attempt to tweak our associate membership category to make it possible to more easily secure representatives from states that may not have SEA members to join Necessful. So I'm very grateful to my committee members. I had a challenging year health-wise, and I'm grateful to the members of the committee who bared with me and who kept our conversations going when I was not able necessarily to do that. We seem to have gotten our momentum back though, and we're excited to share what we think will be a very positive proposal for an amendment here within the next, hopefully a few days.
Great. Any comments or reactions for Ryan? And please do feel free to use the chat box to submit any comments that you would like any of our presenters to respond to. Ryan, thank you so much for all your work on that bylaws committee and for all of those who are supporting that work as well. And we will watch for that proposal to come forward so we can have a lively discussion about changes to our bylaws. Right, we're going to continue alphabetically to our next committee on the list, and that brings us to our Chinese initiatives. And so Anne-Marie, you are up next.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Well, I'm here to share the Chinese Guest Teacher Initiative report or the Chinese Initiatives Committee information. This position, actually this College Board or CB liaison was established as a 2-year position. that would have another member in training. So I am finishing up my service in this position, and Michelle Bro will step into this role on January 1st. So in the past, Necessville partnered with College Board's Chinese Language and Culture Initiatives group on that Chinese guest teacher initiative. And we even had a Necessville Cafe where we kind of talked about the evolution of that work over time. So in addition to supporting guest teachers from various countries, this group with the Chinese initiatives also participates in the planning of the National Chinese Language Conference, or NCLC, and then other outreach opportunities with Asia Society, like the Chinese Early Language and Immersion Network, or CELINE webinar series. Several members were involved with the Chinese Initiatives Committee work this year. You see them pictured on the screen, but they are Shenmei Guang from Indiana, Stacy Lyon from Utah, Deb Nicholson from West Virginia, and Ryan Wertz from Ohio. So stay tuned to learn what comes next under Michelle's leadership of this group.
Anne Marie, thank you so much. And we do look forward to having Michelle come on board, taking over this project. As those of you who have been with us for a while know, our partnership with College Board was one of our primary sources of income and revenue outside of our annual meeting fees. And so when that project came to a close, we took a pretty significant loss in our revenues. So as you start to see our future treasurer's reports come out, you'll probably notice a decline in our revenue stream because we are no longer being reimbursed for the work that we did with the Chinese guest teacher program. So if you took a close look at the treasurer's report and you were kind of wondering why our revenues seem to be down, that's the primary reason, in addition to not having the conference registration fees. The good news was that these last 2 years, our expenses were also down because of the virtual conference, but in the future, we're probably going to have to take a look at our fee structures to make sure that we're still able to bring about all of the activities that we want to as part of our organization. So thank you again, Anne Marie, and all the members of the Chinese Initiatives Group. And next up, we're going to move to our former Linguafolio, now LinguaGrow committee. So Ruta or Stephanie, who is taking the lead here?
Forgot to unmute. I'll start us off. Here is the tireless team comprised of a good mix of Necessville members who have been with Linguafolio since its inception, and some new faces that bring to the table a fresh pair of eyes. But the balance of this committee has been has been very good and is very committed to the development of the new LinguaGrow for our new members. This will be the new and improved version of the current Linguafolio. So this year, last year, you might recall, we talked about the empowered learner profile. This year, we had 3 main goals. We are a committee that meets every month, and oftentimes we have homework in between those meetings. So I'm trying to recruit, obviously, if anyone wants to join us for the continuation of this work. So our first and still our main concern, or one of our main concerns, I should say, is fundraising for the new LinguaGrow. We envision that we will build a new platform. So it will be not an LFO, but a GLO, which a LGO, which will require a considerable amount of money. So in the past year, we have registered in several states where we fundraised. Primarily, these were the 2 states were New York and California, where we tapped as many celebrities as we could find that we knew spoke another language. We were not very successful. So we are now turning our efforts to some other venues, maybe grants, maybe foundations. And Stephanie will tell you more about what that new platform might look like.
Yes, hi everybody, and thank you for joining us today and hearing about what our tireless committee has been up to. Part of, as Ruda said, we're building this new website, and the spirit of this website really deals with what we've learned since Linguafolio was established, you know, a little over a decade ago, really. And what we've really learned is that we were very well intentioned. We had the right mission, that Linguafolio was really for learners and by learners. But in terms of how we operationalized that mission and vision, we missed the mark. We spent a lot of time training teachers in what to do, how to do it, how to use the portfolio system and things along those lines, but we missed actually talking to learners. And that has become increasingly clear throughout a variety of pilot scenarios and different focus groups and things along those lines. So this website that we're trying to create, and we've started to build a kind of skeletal version of the website to use as a template of what we're trying to accomplish, is really going to be directed to learners and for learners. We really want the resources to speak directly to learners across all learning contexts. So not only the learners who are in a classroom, but also those learners who are just truly learning extramurally outside of class or outside of any educational context. We want the website to not be overly directed, but we do want it to serve as a guide. So if you are somebody who's studying a less commonly taught language, or working in a situation where you just don't have anybody to give you a lot of feedback, we want to build in mechanisms to a lot of the activities and the suggestions that we put on the website to provide that feedback for you, or at least provide you direction in how you can start self-evaluating. Which, as you might guess, is a pretty big task. And so and with this website, we envision a lot happening. We also envision there being a, excuse me for that beep. We also envision there being a mobile app that would accompany it to help learners capture their language learning on the go out in the world. And we really are excited by the potential that we see here, which means we need to get more learners with us. We need to collect their voices here, especially those who have not enjoyed language learning in the past. We want to hear from them, especially, but also our successful language learners and what they want to do. And we can go to the next slide, which brings us to our homework for November 16th. For those of you who are here today, and those of you who may watch this tomorrow morning or the like, we're going to have some discussion questions at the end of our committee's presentation during the annual meeting. The first is, what existing learner-facing resources can you share with us? Most of the resources that we have found are actually directed to teachers to help them help learners. What we want is stuff that speaks directly to learners on how to set goals, how to select language learning strategies, how to create evidence, how to reflect. So be thinking about what resources you might have access to. We'd love to curate those resources and look at them and use them as we develop this website. And then what resources do we need to create for learners? What do you think? You know, I've never seen this, but I've always wanted this to give to learners, or to make sure learners had access to. So those are some questions to think about. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we really want to build a robust network of learners that we can get feedback from, and that we can also use them to help promote their language learning activities. We would like them to ideally have a social media presence where they share what they're doing and how language learning strategies are helping them, and how Lingua Grow and reflective practices are improving their lives. And so just any networks that you have of learners that we might be able to reach out to, or any contacts you have, would be lovely. So these are just things to think about before next week. And thank you guys so much.
Stephanie, thank you so much. You and Ruda both, for all the work you're spearheading here. And I hope you'll keep us updated if there is any personal news coming about between now and the annual meeting time. I know we are expecting some at any time. So let us know.
Absolutely. You'll hear from it. You'll hear from me, I promise.
Well, thank you again. We look forward to learning more about Lingua Grow next week. So next up, we have our newest committee, our National Board Certification Committee, being led by Veronica Trapani. And so Veronica, you are up next.
Well, can everyone hear me okay? All right, I'm the only one in the office today, so if there's an echo, it's my fault. Uh, so, since last, or I guess in January, when we held the cafe, we have created our data collection survey. I worked together with some members of AATG and eventually ended up being contacted by Paul Sandrock, and we had a meeting with ACTFL and a few of the other AATs or language specific organizations. So I am actually going to put this is the link to the survey. Now you can actually take it if you are interested. Before we send it out, I will be blanking and getting rid of all of the previous answers. So the next step would be survey distribution. So January 2022, we were looking at thinking that it's after the holidays, but hopefully not too much of finals or exams going on. We also kind of agreed that it would be best that all the organizations that we send it to, that we asked to send it out all at once. We're not, not simultaneously, but within the same week. So that way members of those different organizations, well, yes, there might be some overlap. They can always delete an email. I feel like that's a lot easier. And then, we will be looking at analyzing the findings once we get it. So I'm always still looking for feedback. The survey is now kind of in its beta form. It's not, it's not super finalized yet, but the direction that we're going. And this is also has been updated, some of the feedback that I got at our meeting, the ACTFL NACESFL meeting. And I guess then we, like I said, analyzing the findings and then presenting the data and hopefully creating some visualizations. I am not so good at that. So if you know people who are and would like to help, maybe that's on Paul and ACTFL's side, but I also am, interested and maybe even collecting some qualitative data as well with some interviews. So that's where we are.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for jumping in and taking on that task. It was identified as an area of importance by our members over the course of the last year. So we appreciate you working on that. Thank you. All right, so before we go into our next presentation, we've been going for about 45 minutes straight. So we're just going to take a 60-second pause. I'm going to have everybody just turn off your cameras, do your stretch, whatever it is you like to do, stand up, shake around a little bit, but we're just going to take a 60-second countdown and then we'll come back with our next presentation. All right. So we hope you did take a quick 60-second stretch break there. I'm going to give everybody a moment to come on back here together. Michelle, if you want to go ahead and prepare, you will be up next.
I am ready whenever you are. Can you hear me okay?
All right. You're a little low on the sound.
Is that any better?
I think we're good. Michelle, you want to go ahead?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, you may remember the NACESFL Neural Group showed its face for the first time really at last year's conference, but we had started right after the 2019 conference. And then when COVID hit, our remote meetings just simply made sense to continue. So we have a shared notes document that also has shows the Zoom link, and also the recordings are usually shared there as well.
So you can always catch up. You're always welcome to join, but go on to the next slide. You can see we're having a good time there. Here are a few updates from last November. One of the first things is that we took an interest in finding ways that we could kind of collectively attend a conference. The sense was that sending one person didn't really give us all the different perspectives that we wanted to bring. And so Tom was able to arrange with help, obviously from California, for a group of us to attend the Socially Just World Language Classroom through the Chinese Language Teachers Association. And then we did it again this fall through the Aurora Institute Symposium on Leading Competency-Based Education Redesign. So we're finding that interesting because it both makes us accountable from our experience to each other and also just brings a lot of different perspectives. And interestingly, the people organizing the conferences seem to be kind of interested in the fact that we're trying to have one registration represent multiple people. One of the big things that happened this year is that Tom and Nancy were able to get published the Cal Practitioner Brief, telling the story of the students who were on our panel at the last year's conference, Student Voices, High Schoolers' Insights into World Language Learning. It's really a great piece. And so I hope you have a chance to see that. Another thing that has really popped up this fall, it actually started from a posting in Actful from Hugo Diaz-Rodil from Sierra Academy about the class that he is offering called Language Lab, where he has a variety of students taking a variety of languages, but all at the same time. And he sort of is the curator or coordinator to help them manage their learning. So he came and met with several of the Necessful Neural group, and there's a recording from that. I wasn't able to attend, but I listened to the recording and it is simply fascinating. So I do encourage you to listen. So what's next for us? We are having a session at our Necessful virtual conference, listening to and supporting autonomous language learners. And we hope you'll participate in that. And we've invited a number of people from outside of Necessful to join us, including students. We hope they will be able to come. And our Zoom meetings, here's our Zoom link. They're almost every Wednesday. It's 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, that's not Tom's time, but it is my time at the moment since I'm in Florida. And we want to reach out to some more organizations like TESOL to perhaps do some collaborations along the line of what we did with the Aurora Institute and the California Language Teachers Association. We also hope to do another article, maybe an article even about Hugo and the approach that he's taking. And thank you to Pam Delfos for passing on information about some Wisconsin teachers who are also doing something similar. So I'm sure some other Necessful Neural members may have other things to add, but it's a great group. You're all invited to drop in any old time. It's a great place, certainly, for anybody that wants to see a continuation of the Kentucky Party.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the Neural Group for sharing the work that you've been doing. And again, I want to encourage all of you to use the chat box if there are any comments you would like to make or any questions you'd like to ask for any of the presenters. Coming up next, we have our Professional Resources Committee, and so we are going to ask Linda to take over.
Hello, everyone, and I have to apologize. I have a loaner laptop and the Neural Group knows this. I've had camera issues, so I don't have my camera on, and I apologize because I would love to see everybody. So we have kind of reconstituted the Professional Resources Committee, and you can see all of our wonderful members down there. And what we've started to do is just really go through the resources page and revise what we've got. We've kind of identified 3 areas to address, dealing with the calendar and trying to beef that up and use that more efficiently, international visiting teachers and advocacy. We're going to start to kind of develop some subgroups and do revisions. So if anyone would be interested in helping us out, we would appreciate that. We will be probably sending out a survey to everyone to kind of see what your needs are with regards to resources that we can all access through the Necessful website. But in the meantime, there is a Google Doc form that's already out there that you can submit if you have a great resource that other people may find interesting or need to, find useful. Let us know about it and we can get it online. And with that, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate your report on that and on this very important work from the Professional Resources Committee. So coming up next, it seems I had a little bit of trouble singing the alphabet song because I have one of my N's out of order with the P, but we don't want to miss the very important work of our nominating committee. So Ophelia, you are up next.
Thanks, Lisa. And Lisa, that's right. Every 2 years, our nominating committee is activated for the very important task of vetting and nominating a slate of board members who will lead our organization for the next 2 years, and also to identify the future president of our organization. And this year, I am particularly grateful to Terry, to Greg, and Michelle, who contributed greatly through their input and reflection to this important vetting process that we took on this year. If we could go to the next slide. We adopted a 4-prong criteria to vet those nominees. The 4-prong criteria was organizational continuity, diversity of voices. We felt it was important to have a balance between new and established voices on our board, geographical representation, and skill set. And as you can see by the notation of the stars, our new board will pretty much span a broad span of all of our member states, as you can see on our map. Next. Oh, I guess we stay on that other one. Great, thanks, Lisa. We are very grateful to Pam, to Brandy, and to Kathleen for their willingness to serve a second term and provide that organizational continuity that we were looking for under Patrick's leadership next, and Lisa's mentoring. And we are very excited to welcome 2 new voices to the board, with Melissa Monroe as our president-elect, and to Veronica Trapani as our technology coordinator. And I also want to give a shout out to Kathy Shelton, who is stepping down as a technology coordinator this year. But Kathy has really championed and grown this office with great benefits to our successful organization. So I'm very excited as a nominating committee to leave you with a board that I think will serve our organization just impressively in the future. Thank you.
Well, Ophelia, thank you. And as one of your final duties for your board service, your 6 years on the board, thank you for a job well done putting together a team and a slate of officers to represent the future as we're moving forward. Well, speaking of the future, next up, we have our State Supervisor of the Year from 2020, Anne Marie Gunter, to share what will be going on with our next Supervisor of the Year announcement. Anne Marie?
Thanks so much, Lisa. Well, I want to share with you that we do have a new State Supervisor of the Year selected. I want to thank the members of our selection committee. You see them there on the screen: Gregory Fulkerson from Delaware, Tony Tyson from Colorado, and Jackie Van Houten from Kentucky. And as we have a little variety as well, kind of like in the nominating committee did, we want to get some geographic representation as well as active members, retired members, and associate members. I want to thank them for their due diligence in reviewing applications, which are totally online this year. And we are very excited to announce the 2021 awardee next week on Wednesday, November 17th, during our Supervisor of the Year luncheon, along with the NATSFL Supervisor of the Year, because we always do those 2 announcements together. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And thank you to all of the committee chairs who have done a great job, not just on your reports for today, but on the work throughout the year that has taken place in support of our organization. So please join me in thanking all of our presenters from the different committees who have worked so hard to bring this about. And that wraps up our old business portion of the meeting. And I'm going to pause for a moment just to see if we have any reactions to the reports or anything we'd like to share before we move into the new business portion of today's presentation. So any comments, please feel free to unmute if you have any that you'd like to share, or put questions in the chat box if you have any you'd like to ask of the various presenters. And I'll just pause for a moment to see if there's any comments or reactions to the reports. All right, so do feel free to continue using that chat box to interact if you wish. We will go ahead and move on to the new business portion of our annual meeting. So first up, we have the very important job of voting on our location and dates for the 2022 meeting. I'm sure that you are all very excited about the possibility of staying on Zoom once again, right? Oh, okay. So hopefully we will be able to move on to an in-person event. And so our proposal is that we plan for a live meeting to be held in Boston, as is our normal function, in collaboration with the ACTFL annual convention, which would place our meeting November 15th to the 17th of 2022 in Boston, Massachusetts. And so do we have a motion to hold our annual meeting next year, 2022, in Boston in person? And feel free, you can unmute or put it in the chat.
This is
I make a
Ryan.
motion that we.
Go ahead.
Right. I heard Ryan first. So we have Ryan, a motion. And Nell, do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, I think that was Ophelia. We have a second. And with that motion and second, is there any discussion? All right, I'm seeing some items in the chat. And Greg, I don't know what you're talking about. Looking forward to Boston live. Okay, so with that, I am going to go ahead and launch the poll for voting. And you are voting to be in favor of holding our 2022 annual meeting in Boston in conjunction with the ACTFL convention. Yes, no, and abstain are your choices. And once again, if you cannot see the poll question, but you would like to vote, please do use the chat feature for that. We're at about 79%. We'll give just another moment to make sure everybody has had a chance to vote. I see one yes in the chat, so about 3 seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that, and the results are passing unanimously for holding the annual meeting in Boston in person. Okay, so that will be our plan. Let us hope that circumstances allow us to actually do that. And Greg, yes, I know you were referring to that. I was just teasing you. All right, so with the poll question out of the way, we are going to go ahead and move on to the topic of dues and registration fees. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Brandy.
So we have our dues set at $40, right? 40 or 50, I made a note. Yeah, $40 for regular and associate members and $20 for retired, both associate and regular members. So I will need a motion if we want to keep the member dues the same. Lisa, do we want to split this vote or keep the dues and registration fees for the same in the same motion?
I made it a combined poll, but you want to handle it as a split, we can do it separately as well.
Okay, so let's keep it the same. So the dues are $40 for regular and associate, 20 for retired. And then for the in-person annual meeting would return to the amount that we charged in 2019 instead of the virtual amount that we've been charging at $50.
I make a motion that we keep the same fee structures.
Okay, so that was Gregory. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Michelle Bro. I second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is Ryan, and I'm just concerned that without the flow of income coming from College Board, I'm not sure that leaving the fees alone is maybe the right move right now. Our fees are extremely affordable. They have always been affordable. And while I truly appreciate the board's willingness to keep costs down for us, I don't know about others in the Successful, but I would certainly be willing to support, at least to begin with, a modest increase in dues. And I'm just throwing that out there for thought, maybe not for this year, but for the near future. We really need to think about the financial health of the organization, especially without the loss of our major revenue stream. And I just want to plant this seed for all of my Successful friends to think about in the future.
You know, this is Greg, and I would like to comment on what Ryan's just said. I agree with him, but I think we should hold off a year and wait till this time next year to have that discussion, because we are sitting on a little bit of a pad cushion. So we should see how the year goes, and then we can have a more appropriate discussion on what we really need to raise the fees to stay solvent. So I agree with Ryan. I just think we should postpone that conversation until next year.
Okay, and I can tell you that Ryan and Greg, your comments mirror pretty much the discussion that we've had. We did note that potentially we may need to raise fees in future years, but we did think that it was important to allow us to get back to a normal sort of schedule before we propose that raising of the meeting. And also, we are still comfortable in our bank balance because we have been very prudent with our spending. So we can easily, I think, maintain at least this year without having to consider a raise in fees. And that is the recommendation of our treasurer, is that we go ahead and remain at the 2019 amount, which was, I believe, $150 for regular registration and $60 for retired registration. And in maintaining that structure. Was it $60 for retired? It's been 2 years, so now I can't recall. Okay, any additional discussion?
Lisa, this is Ruta. I just recall discussions in years past when we have raised the registration. The thinking at the time was that many of our, at the time, many of our state agencies would pay for the registration fee, not for the dues. So we had a tendency to keep the dues low, but up the registration, because in many cases that fee would be paid for by the agency. So that may no longer be true, but I thought I would just throw that out as just for food for thought.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Okay, any other discussion? I do see one comment in the chat box from Michelle Brode. Another thought, if I remember correctly, we had more virtual participants in 2020. Our 2020, was just, I think, a few members higher than what we normally have in person. This year we have 66 registered, which is about 10, maybe higher than our normal in-person amount. So we are a little bit higher. In 2020, we had around 63, Kathleen says. All right, so if there is no other discussion, I am going to go ahead and launch the poll. And please do go ahead and make your selection. Are you in favor of retaining the fee structure for at least this coming year? And we're only voting for this coming year for 2022. And again, feel free to put your vote in the chat box if you are not able to see the poll on your screen. About 5 more seconds. We are just about at 100%. Okay, I think we've captured everyone. And once again, the motion has passed unanimously in favor of retaining the dues and registration fees at the 2019 amount. All right, Brandy, thank you so much for that presentation on the fees and registration structure. And we are going to move right on now to Patrick and the call for proposals for 2022. Patrick?
Okay, everyone. Well, as you know, ACTFL is going to be in Boston and we just voted. We are going to have hopefully an in-person event there. And so this is just a reminder that the deadline for making a submission for a session at the 2022 ACTFL conference is November 18th. Well, is actually in, January coming up. So just a little reminder that if you just to submit those presentation requests. So just a note to everyone about that. And we look forward to having another equally large amount of presentations from our NSSFL members. So I think that's it. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Patrick. And I did just want to remind you, as you are considering those presentations, to please be sure and start out your title with Lead with NSSFL. We do that because we had an agreement with ACTFL that we would get some presentations as a partner organization that didn't have to go through the complete review process, so that we have an opportunity to be represented there at the convention as well. And also so that our colleagues know that they are joining a session that is being led by a state representative. So please do start your proposals with Lead with NSSFL whenever you can. And we encourage everyone who has something to share to go ahead and submit those proposals so we can all come and cheer each other on in person in Boston next November. Patrick, thank you for that. We're getting close to the end here. Another piece of new business is we want to make sure you know where you can find NSSFL virtually at the ACTFL convention. So Ophelia, if you would like to share that information.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I know in the past, whenever I thought about the booth assignment, even though it was an okay assignment, it was not the most attractive thing that I wanted to do when we were at the conference. But after 2 years of being virtually, I cannot wait to have the opportunity to volunteer to sit at our NSSFL booth in Boston. But until then, let me tell you how we can find our NSSFL booth this year. The ACTFL virtual platform will actually go live on Wednesday, November 17th. And if you can see here when you go to the homepage, you will see that there is a tab up here for exhibitors. The exhibitor booths are listed alphabetically. And obviously, you'll be able to find our NSSFL booth. This is what our homepage looks like. Visitors to our booth will have access to the key documents that we have made available to visitors to our booth during a traditional year. And that would be our members map, our brochure, and the state supervisor's job description, as well as they will have a list of our officers, and they will have the option to leave a business card as well as schedule a meeting. There will be 2 meeting platforms. You can either request, as a visitor to our booth, request a meeting that is under the platform or a one-to-one chat, or you can have a video meeting request where more than 2 people can participate. I will be monitoring the request for meetings during the conference. However, I will tell you that the report from last year was that there's very limited activity of people actually visiting the virtual booth. So we don't expect a lot of activity. There will also appear a chat pane on this page when the platform goes live. And I do want to make you aware that if you participate or use that pane, that chat is public to everyone, unlike the option to request a meeting and have a one-to-one chat, which will be private. At the end of the conference, we will get a report that will give us a report of all activities related to our booth. And so that's what we have for this year. And I see that some of you are like me, are going to be excited to volunteer at our booth in Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Ophelia. And I'm going to hold you to that. As we get together in Boston, I will be looking for your help as we transfer the teal suitcase. All right. Well, Kathy, I think we can go ahead and stop the PowerPoint presentation now. We are going to go ahead and move into our wrap-up phase. And I do have just a couple of annual meeting reminders before we move to adjournment. Before I do that, though, first, I really do want once more to thank all of our panelists and all of you who've joined us today to make sure that we recognize all the hard work that has gone into keeping our organization running. So once again, thank you, board members, committee chairs, committee members, and participants for all that you do to help keep our organization vital. And also would like to just give a special shout out again to Kathy, because she's going to share with us right now a little sneak preview on the website. So Kathy, are you able to pull that up and maybe give a little quick tour of what we're going to see when we go to that annual meeting website?
Yeah, hang on for a second. All right, let me share here. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So it's pretty straightforward. Luckily, Google makes very easy websites. And I think when I gave the tiny URL before, I think I said meet me at Necessful 2021, but I think it's meet me at Necessful 21, isn't it, Lisa? Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, I think I gave the wrong URL. So set up really easily on the left-hand side, you'll have, if you click the agenda at a glance, you can do a couple different things. You can just click a down arrow and it just gives you an overview, or if you actually click on the link, oops, there we go. It takes you to the full agenda. It gives you the Zoom room. Lisa's going to probably talk about collaborative notes before the meeting. Like I mentioned, the survey is right there, so you can do the survey as we go through each piece. This is a little bit more detailed as you go in. You'll see the link on here for each meeting will be the actual folder where the presenters have their handouts, et cetera, that you can download. Here's some of the things I was talking about, the in-between breaks. There's some yoga, some positive energy, et cetera. During lunch break, you can hang out in the Zoom room. There's some quizzes that are sort of culture related, sort of some cardio workouts, et cetera. So just on each one, you'll see, like I said, just the right-hand side with all the meeting stuff. The left-hand side has just some sort of interactive things. So those are the agendas on the left. We have a new member page that will have just that I know Patrick's going to do during the meeting, but if you want to see who our new members are ahead of time, you can see that. We have the sponsors page. We're not doing, last year we did an exhibit hall. We're not doing that this year because luckily all of our sponsors are actually going to speak to us live. So I think that's kind of nice for all of us. So we still have the sponsors page with the links. And as Kathleen was mentioned, they were incredibly generous with their money this year. So even if you just sort of click on their sponsor list and go check out their websites, I think they would appreciate that. Supervisor of the year is blank right now. We'll wait for that. As I said, the photo booth is empty right now. So please start sending me pictures, selfies, anything you want in the photo booth, I can put in there quickly. And then once Pam or Kathleen, I forget who's doing the slideshow. Once we have the accomplishment slideshow, if you haven't, it's Pam, right? If you haven't sent Pam your slides yet for the accomplishment slideshow, please make sure to send her that. She has a personal one and like a state one. The surveys again are linked here. So in case you're not going to be there or you do them later, all the surveys are there. Here again is to verify your contact. So again, make sure you're not a ghost. On our website, check your address on the website and the wild apricot where you register, make sure everything's legit there. The link that says actual convention information, this is what Patrick was talking about. You can get the convention in the online program. And I don't know if you've looked at ACTFL's online program, but it's so easy to use. Like I was trying to get details and I just typed in name and found everything I need. And then if you click on this, you get the full discussion of all the NACESFL presenters. So that's what Patrick was talking about. And that's it. I think those are just the main things, Lisa.
Thank you, Kathy. That is such an awesome website. You have done such a great job, and it'll be a place where we'll be able to go back to and visit all of the things that take place over the course of the annual meeting. We'll be linking to presentations. Just a couple of other things I want to share before we wrap up. First is the idea of recording. We were approached by several members, and in the survey, we had several members ask if we could record sessions from the annual meeting. As you know, we did not do that last year. We typically did not record our sessions, but we decided to make some special arrangements this year. And what the board decided was that we would record sessions, the presentation component, but that we would not record the discussions. That way we will maintain that opportunity to have, as they say, free and frank discussions without the recording hindering any of the conversations. We will, however, have a collaborative notes document so that any items that are brought up that we want to keep from discussion topics can be shared there, and that will then become part of our conference record. So we will record the presentation portion, have open discussion times that are not recorded, but collaborative notes for sharing ideas and takeaways from the different sessions that we participate in. So that's one item we wanted to share. Another item we wanted to share was that if all of you want to show how technologically inclined you are and try to see if you can match Kathy's wonderful showing here, we're going to give you the opportunity to become Zoomie of the year. We've spent a lot of time on Zoom. So as you know, we've gotten pretty adept, some of us, at creating backgrounds for that. And so we're going to have a little competition that you will vote on, where you will select whichever of your colleagues' background is the most representative of our NACESFL meeting, theme and meeting. So you can create a PowerPoint that you show behind you, or you can set up your office space with items that represent. And then we will be looking at your screens throughout the course of Tuesday and give you all an opportunity to vote in the chat box for the background that you think is most deserving of our first ever NACESFL Zoomie Award. So we hope you'll participate in that. We're also going to have the opportunity for you to win some prizes with our special Wheel of Names. And so every time we have a sponsor presentation that you attend, we will spin the wheel for a virtual gift card. And so you must be present to win. So you need to tune in to our little 3-minute sponsor commercials. And then we'll do a spin of the wheel and choose somebody to win a virtual gift card to thank you for the attention to our sponsors who really are helping to make this happen and subsidizing a lot of the cost of our meetings, even the virtual ones, which did have some costs associated with it. So that, I think, pretty much brings us to the end. I am going to pause and ask if any of the other board members have any additional announcements or information they would like to share. Not seeing any. I do want to encourage you also to send in those photos. I saw a few pop up on Facebook. Some of you who received the registration package sharing. That is a good photo that you could share with Kathy as well to get us started on our photo booth. And we are really looking forward to seeing everybody again on Tuesday. So in order to allow us to wrap up, we are going to need a motion to adjourn. So we can wrap up today and see each other again on Tuesday. So do I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Oh, nobody wants to leave. You want to just stay here forever.
This is my motion to wrap it up.
We have a motion from Tom. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right, let's go ahead and get your vote in. Are you in favor of adjournment? All right, they're coming in very quickly. And it looks like we just about have everyone already. And we do. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you all so much once again. And we will see you all on Tuesday. Take care, everyone.